Today's daf, Baruch Hashem, is daf Mem Beis 42. We are picking up Baruch Hashem on the bottom of Mem Aleph, Beis 41b. We're picking up 5 lines up from the bottom. A beautiful, beautiful Gemara today. Says the Gemara, V'amar Rabbi Acha Rabbi Chanina, Amar Rabbi Asi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Ad Kama Mevarchen Ala Chodesh. So let's remember again, now that we got a little bit into a discussion about the durations of the months. Again, remember the time to this sugya was the fact that in our Mishnah we were speaking about the fact that if there are discrepancies amongst the eidim regarding what day of the month, we could attribute at least to a certain degree the discrepancy. Okay, we can attribute the discrepancy, or say, to a lack of knowledge regarding whether or not the previous month was a mali or a chaser. So now that we were discussing about the duration of the month, the Gemara launches into a little bit of a discussion regarding Kiddush HaChodesh. It's actually a very beautiful Gemara. It's actually very halacha l'maisa, and especially very beautiful given the fact that I'm sure in many kehilos, including ours, last night we recited Kiddush HaChodesh. So Baruch Hashem, Kiddush Levana. So the Gemara says over here, Ad Kama Mevarchen Ala Chodesh. So when they speak about Ad Kama Mevarchen Ala Chodesh, Rashi says over here, Al HaLevana Beis Chadsha. So until what point in time in the month can you go ahead and recite Kiddush Levana? So the Gemara answers, this is Rabbi Yochanan answers, Ashe Tismali Pigimasa. Was it literally translated until the Pigima, the deficiency of the moon, is filled in. Thank you, sir. Until the deficiency of the moon is filled in. The Kama. So we'll say, so what does that mean until the deficiency of the moon is filled in? In other words, obviously what the Gemara is saying over here, it's the beginning of the month, the moon begins as a very small sliver. So you can recite Kiddush Levana until the sliver is filled in, the deficiency is filled in. So you know how much of the deficiency? The Kama. Amr Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi, Amr Rabbi Yehuda, Ad Shiva, until the 7th of the month. So you could go ahead and recite Kiddush Levana until the 7th of the month. Nardoyim, the Nardoyim say no, Ad Shisha Asar, until the 16th of the month. So we'll say, what's unique about the 16th of the month? The 16th of the month ultimately, again, is when the moon is full. And the moon is full. So the Gemara says, top of Membeis, I will say, interestingly enough, both of them subscribe to the position of Rabbi Yochanan. Remember again, Rabbi Yochanan was the one who said that you could recite Kiddush Levana until when? Until the deficiency, the pigima, that which is lacking, is filled in. Both Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi and both Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi, or I should say Rabbi Yehuda, and the Nardoim agree with that statement of Rabbi Yochanan, that you can go ahead and recite Kiddush Levana until the deficiency is filled in. What they argue about is, what's the definition of the deficiency? So the Gemara says, so we'll say, so the first opinion holds up ultimately until the 7th of the month. He holds until the moon looks like a bow that has somewhat filled in. So when you look at the 7th of the month, the moon is still crescent shaped. But as opposed to, let's say, if you went out last night where it was just a little crescent, by the 7th of the month, it's the crescent, but some of the, I don't know what the right terminology over here is, called some of the arc. Right, some of the semicircle is filled in. So in that image is a bow that is filled in. So the moon looks closer to half full. Whereas the Nardoim say no, that it should look like a sieve. We'll say, what's a sieve? So a sieve is a full circle. So it's a fundamental machlokes, both agreeing. Bless you. With the statement of Rabbi Yochanan, but a machlokes, can you recite it until the 7th of the month or the 16th of the month? And by the way, when we say the 16th of the month, what do they mean? They mean ad velo ad bichlal, meaning up until the 16th really means what? Through the 15th. Through the 15th of the month, you can recite Kiddush Levana. So we'll say, ultimately, again, we know that halacha l'maisa, we follow the position of the Nardoim, and we recite Kiddush Levana up through the middle of the month, up until the 16th, meaning through the 15th, we can recite Kiddush Levana, but no longer. So the Gemara says something so beautiful over here. This is so beautiful. Why don't we recite the bracha of Hatov HaMeitiv every month with the new moon? Look at Rashi for just a moment. 3 lines in and the wide lines on the top. Levarech Hatov HaMeitiv. As Rabbi Yehuda Parich, Nehi nami d'meshiva ve'elach leka l'meimar mechadish chadashim levarech mi Hatov HaMeitiv shekol shoshu meitiv lanu b'miliusa Tamid Shemosef V'Slaylam. So we'll say the way Rashi understands this question is the following. Rashi understands that even according to Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that you can only recite Kiddush Levana until the 7th of the month. Let's say I missed the window for Kiddush Levana. I should still be able to what? Recite the bracha of Hatol V'Hametiv. Up until when? Up until the middle of the month. In other words, because it will say up until the time that the moon itself is renewing, even if I miss the window for Kiddush Levana, I should still be able to recite Hatov HaMeitiv. So we'll say Hatov HaMeitiv is the bracha that is made, either whenever something good that also bestows good upon others is occurring. So in this case over here, the moon is renewing. It's a good that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, and it's a good ultimately that benefits us as well. Let's say Hatov HaMeitiv, according to Rabbi Yehuda, between 7th and the 15th, Amrlei Atuki Chasar Mima Varchinan Dayan HaMS, Telivarech Hatov HaMeitiv. So also, it's actually very interesting. The Gemara suggests that if you're going to say Hatov V'Hametiv as the moon goes through its process of filling in, then what? Then you should recite Dayan HaEmes when the moon ultimately again begins to diminish. In other words, Hatov V'Hametiv and Dayan HaEmes are two sides of the same coin. So if you're going to tell me that the filling in of the moon ultimately gets Hatov V'Hametiv, then ultimately again the deficiency of the moon, or I should say, the moon becoming deficient, should get a Dayan HaEmes, to which the Gemara says, okay, so why not? Fine. And the Gemara says, okay, why don't we go ahead and say Hatov HaMeitiv between the 7th and the 15th if you miss Kiddush Levana, and say a Dayan HaEmes when the moon is becoming deficient, to which the Gemara answers, Kevan Dahainu Orchei Lo Mevarachina. To which I will say, the Gemara essentially answers that since this is the normal course of the world each and every month, we do not recite these brachas. Take a look at Rashi. Tahainu orchei b'chol kodesh brias olam kimin hagoi. Each and every month, the world creation renews in its normal fashion. Ve'ei kan din paronos bechesrona velo hatavasa lanu chesed b'miluasa. So it's very interesting. So apparently, Hatov HaMeitiv and Dayan HaEmes only go on things that occur without scheduled regularity. But events that occur with scheduled regularity, such as the filling in of the moon, such as the deficiency of the moon, ultimately, again, those events do not get a Dayan HaEmes, those events do not get a Tov HaMeitiv. Incredible. Let's listen to this next beautiful Gemara. Amar Avasi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kala Mavarich Ala Chodesh Bizmano. Whoever will say recites Kiddush Levana in its appointed time, Kila Mekabel Pnei Shechina. It's as if he's gone ahead and been Mekabel, literally received the Shechina itself. Where do we know this? It says, it says by Rosh Chodesh, HaChodesh Hazeh, this month is for Rosh Chodeshim, Uksiv Hasam, Zeh Keli Va'anvehu. So we'll say, remember again, Zeh Va'anvehu is by, as Yosher. What does Rashi HaKadosh comment on Zeh Keli Va'anvehu? Zeh, that literally they were able to see the Shechina. They were able to point, Zeh Keli, this is my God. So the Gemara makes Exer Shava of Zeh. HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodeshim, Zeh Keli Va'anvehu. Just like by the Shira, they were literally able to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So too when a person recites Kiddush Levana Bizmano, it's as if they are being Mekabel B'Pnei Shechina. I'll just tell you something. In addition to the beautiful Gezerah Shava, the Maharsha, I'll just read this to you for a second. The Maharsha says, he quotes over here, Ayin B'Zeh Perish Rivan, B'Sof Tfilas HaShachar, Yishomer Lefi She'yisrael B'Galusan Einon Zochel Linos Pnei Shechina. U'Lechal Kamim Kabbalasa. I will say, in the Galus, we don't have the ability ultimately to see the Pnei Shechina. We see manifestations of God. We see the Rebbe in many different ways, but we're not able to see Pnei Shechina. We're not able to see the Rebbe Shel Olam directly in Galus. Aval Chidush Halavane Hu Simin L'Yisrael Shemaschidim L'Schadesh Kimosa Ulefaer Liotram B'Kibo Pnei Shechina Kimoshe Yora Al Zeh Birchas Nusach Birchas Halavana. Ulazeh Keshanu Mevarchin Ala Chodesh Bizmano Shu Simin Shanu Asidim L'Schadesh Kimosa Bahari Anu Ki'ilim Mekala Pnei Shechina. So I will say in Galus, and when we speak about Galus, I will say, I'm going to say something that I don't like saying. But it's the MS. Galus doesn't just mean living in outside of Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael also presently is also Galus. It's much closer to Shechina, but it's still Galus also up until Mashiach comes and the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt, it's galus. Everything is galus. When there is galus, the Jew is not able to be mekabel the Pnei Hashchina in a pure, unadulterated way, and that is a difficult, bitter pill to swallow. But yet, every single month when we go out and we see the moon renewing, we are reminded that just as the moon renews, Klal Yisrael will renew. Just as the moon goes through periods of darkness, but once again becomes beautiful and luminescent, Klal Yisrael, even though we are currently have been undergoing periods of darkness, I just mean as a collective, through thousands of years of galus, we will renew, we will become luminescent, and we will be Mekabel Pnei Hashchina. That's the Gemara means over here. That every single month when you go out and we recite Kiddush Levana, it's Keilu Mekabel Pnei Hashchina, which means that it gives us the chizuk to know that one day, Halavai B'Karev, the day will come in Mirat Hashem when Geula will come, and we will mamish be Mekabel Pnei Hashchina. We'll be able to see the Ribono Shalom, experience Him in a pure, unadulterated way. Incredible Gemara. Tana Rabbi Shmuel. Il Moli Lo Zachu Yisrael. Ela Lahakbil Pnei Avim Shavashayin Kol Chodesh VeChodesh Dayam. So was it another beautiful Gemara? Therefore, had Klal Yisrael not had the if only it's like a Dayenu, if you only had the opportunity, and I was remember we recite if these Gemaras sound familiar, it's because we said them last night, right? I mean, they're sounds a bit familiar, right? It's right. These are incorporated as part of Kiddush Levana. They were Ilmale. If Klal Yisrael didn't have the opportunity, if all Klal Yisrael had was the opportunity to be Mekabel Pnei Avim Shevashan, to Mekabel HaKadosh Baruch Hu each and every month through Kiddush Kodesh, Dayam. We'll say, so what does that mean? What does that mean? If I only had one mitzvah Kiddush HaKodesh, that would be enough. Remember again, Kiddush Levana that we do today, we'll say, is that a mitzvah? Is that a mitzvah? Pashtus not. That's not one of the 613 mitzvahs. Right? Meaning, again, there's a mitzvah of Kiddush HaKodesh, which is done by the Beis Din, by the Sanhedrin of declaring the new month. Kiddush Levana that we have today is a tefillah. It's a beautiful tefillah. So what does that mean? What does that mean? That if all we had was Kiddush Levana, if all we had was the opportunity to go outside, to be Mekabel Pnei Hashchina once a month, that would be enough. I will say what it means is mitzvahs give us chizuk. Mitzvahs give us strength. The strength that Kiddush Levana gives us is enough to fuel us for the entire month. Because I will say, what's the message of Kiddush Levana? The message of Kiddush Levana is no matter how dark I have become, I can always renew. No matter how much I've slipped, no matter how much I've lost, some of my beautiful luminescent radiance, I can always rebound. That is true whether as an individual, as a klal. And I will say, that chizuk is so powerful, that chizuk is so meaningful, that even just that almost like booster shot, that like lahavda, it's like a Z-pack of spirituality. You know, you mamish, like you just get this intensity of incredible chizuk, and mamish, that's enough to fuel me for the month. Tana Rabbi Shmuel. So Abaye says, because this is so important, therefore I will say we should, because Kiddush HaKodesh is so, I keep saying Kiddush HaKodesh and Kiddush Levana is so important, therefore what? We should say it standing. We should say it standing. Mereimar Umar Zutra, Mekas Yadadi. We'll say Mereimar Zutra, it was so important for them to say Kiddush Levana that even though they were old and frail, they used to be carried out on the shoulders of people to recite Kiddush Levana. Which I will say, is an incredible thing. I know sometimes, on Matzah Shabbos, there's a Yetzer Hara to run elsewhere like Kiddush Levana, right? You have to time it because you don't want to run to your car while everybody's already outside. Saying you need like a 2-minute head start, to whatever. I know what because there's something else. Listen, there's nothing else. There's nothing else. Mamish, if you want the Z-pack of spirituality, you want the booster shot, you want to be Mekabel Pnei Avim Shavashamayim. It's the incredible opportunity we have, and it's 6, 7, 8 minutes with the dancing. It's 9 minutes. Okay, so it says the Gemara. So in Eretz Yisrael, we used to recite the following bracha: Baruch Mechadesh Chadashim. So interesting, we will say in Eretz Yisrael. So Kiddush Levana consisted of Baruch Mechadesh Chadashim. That's it. So the Gemara says, Amrlei, Hai Nashi Didan Namim Mevarchi. So that sounds like a bracha for women, right? Baruch Mechadesh Chadashim. It's like a woman's bracha, right? Right? We're men. Give us a little bit more. So I say, so what does this mean? So the Maharsha over here again comments The Maharsha says, Ratzal Omar, Tfilu Kitzara Kizu, Noshi Nami Tuchlu Levarech Bal Peh Balayla. In other words, such a simple bracha, the idea is that even women, I will say historically, were not as educated or well versed in tefillos as men. Even a woman could recite such a small, short bracha. He goes on, Inami Dachi Kamar, Nashinami Tuchel Levarke de Kamar, Baruch Mechadish Chadash, and Below Askaras Hashem B'tumas Leidasan. The other idea over here was is that since this bracha doesn't have a Shem Hashem, it's possible that a woman could say it even throughout the entire month, no matter what her personal purity state is. So the Gemara says, so what's going on with this bracha? We'll say there are a lot of other approaches with this also, but we'll leave it for now. So the Gemara says, Alakid Rabbi Huda Amarav, Dam Rabbi Huda, Baruch Hashem Ma'ara Bara Shechakim. So we'll say, Rabbi Huda in the name of Rav said, in fact, Kiddush Levana should be a longer bracha. What's the bracha? Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, Hashem Ma'amara Bara Shechakim. Through his words, his Kadosh Baruch Hu's words, he has created the heavens. Uberuach Pev Kol Tzeva'av. And ultimately, again, through the breath of his mouth, he has created the entire heavenly host. Chok Uzman Nasan Lohem. He has given each of the heavenly hosts. A chok is rules and specific times. Shelo Yishanu es Tafkidam. They should not deviate from their mission. Sasim Usmeichem La'asos Ritzon Konam. And they are so happy and jubilant to go and fulfill the will of their creator. Paul Emes. They toil truthfully. Shepeulassan Emes. Whose work is truth. Ulavana Amar Shetischadesh Ateres Tiferes La'amuse Batan. And to the moon he has said, Shetischadesh, moon should renew every month. Ateres, it is a crown of glory, La'amuse Batan, to those who come from the womb. Shehin Asidin Leschadesh Kemosa. For they are destined to renew like the moon. So we'll say this is the dynamic we spoke about before. That we who are born of the womb ultimately gain incredible chizuk from the moon. That just as the moon renews, we are destined to renew as well. Ulefa'er liotzram, and ultimately to give glory to our Creator. Hashem kivod malchusal, baruch ato Hashem mechadesh chadash. So we'll say absolutely amazing that the very bracha that Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Rav is pretty much the very bracha that we recite to this very day. Ki b'sachbulos ta'asa locha milchama. So we'll say now the Gemara switches gears a little bit. Ki b'sachbulos ta'asa locha milchama, because we'll say sachbulos means strategies, right? Strategies, or tachbulos, strategies. Through strategies he will do war. By who do you find the ability to wage the war of Torah? Chavilos shal Mishnah. So the Gemara makes a little bit of a play on words. So tachbulos literally means strategies or plans. Only he who has a strategy, only he who has a plan, has the ability to wage war. So the Gemara darshans on this a little bit. Who has the ability to wage the war of Torah? In other words, who has the ability to be successful in understanding and adjudicating matters of Torah? Only he who carries piles of Mishnah. In other words, only a person who is well versed in knowledge. So the Gemara says, Kai Rav Yosef Anafshe. Rav Yosef used to say about himself, ultimately again, V'rav Tuvuos B'choach Shor. The ultimately again, the shore, when he has ultimately all of strength, Rav Tuvuos is able to transport an incredible amount of grain. Tosfos points out that Rav Yosef said this about himself because this was the praise given to Yosef. Yosef was called Bechar Shar. So Rav Yosef used to say about himself, through the power of the shar has the ability to transport much Tavua. Tavua over here, ultimately, again, a reference to Torah. Good, beautiful. So we'll say, just, Tosfos also points this out. An incredible yesod, by the way, one of the dominant themes in Kiddush Levana is the idea that the fixtures of nature, shelo yeshanu es tafkidam, emes. Part of the greatest praise that nature gets is that they have a job and they don't veer from the job. And most to a certain degree, the Rishonim bring down that that's part of the Musar that we are supposed to get from Kiddush Levana as well. We each have a mission. Now again, we have specific individualized missions, but bigadol on a general level, our mission is to carry out the Ratzon Habore through the performance of Torah and mitzvos. And we are supposed to take our musar from creation. The moon never deviates from what it's supposed to do. The sun doesn't deviate from what it's supposed to do. The seas do what they're supposed to do. And the Jew is to learn from nature as well. I have a mission, and it's my job to achieve consistency. That's the beauty of nature. You can count on nature. There's consistency. It's true there are changes there, but even those changes are part of the plan. So I have to learn. That's the musar I take from nature, is the beauty of consistency. Good. The Gemara goes weiter. Echad omer b'shtei shos, amar Silber ashi, lo shanu ela shos. So we discussed the idea that when witnesses give testimony, we allow for some margin of error about if one says it happened, in the second hour one says it happened, in the third hour, aval echad omer kodem hanitzachama, ve'echad omer la'achar hanitzachama idusan b'tela. We'll say if one witness says the murder occurred before sunrise, one witness says it happened after sunrise, even though what they're both saying, they could be off by just what? A few minutes. The eidos is batal. To which the one says pshita. That's obvious. That's obvious because obviously I will say one is taking place during daylight, one is before daylight. To which the Gemara says, I'll tell you why it's not so pashat. Elo echad omer kodem neitzachama. I'm sorry. Elo echad omer kodem neitzachama. Ve'echad omer socha neitzachama. So rather the Gemara says what it means to say is if one says the murder happened before sunrise and one says it happened during sunrise, their eidos is also batal. To which the Gemara says, Hanai pshita. But that's also pashat. No. Ma'adatema ha bigiluya kai v'zahuri ba'amud lechaza. I might have thought about say that one was standing in the glow of the sunrise and he saw the rays. That's why he mistook that to mean that it was after sunrise, but it was really during sunrise. And so they're really saying the same exact thing. Kamash Malon, no. What's like Kamash Malon, that if one says before sunrise and one says after sunrise, one says before sunrise, one says during sunrise, one says during sunrise, one says after sunrise. Ultimately, again, the eidos is batal. So let's remember again, the Mishnah then spoke about the idea that if one of the members, let's say one of the Talmidim says, I have a raya, right? I have a proof to find the defendant innocent. So what do? They bring him onto the Beis Din for that day. So says the Gemara the following idea. So says the Gemara, they only allow that Talmud to stay on the Beis Din for that day and no more. We learn, if it turns out that the student had something good to say, meaning that his words were meaningful, he had a good raya, so we keep him on the Beis Din forever. He has a permanent seat on the Beis Din. So the Gemara says, however, again, if it turns out that the raya that he had was nothing, we still allow him to sit by the Beis Din for that day. We don't dismiss him that day. Why? Because we don't have to be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed, meaning if they put him on the Beis Din and then a few hours later they take him off the Beis Din, that's embarrassing for him. So once he comes up, we let him stay there for the day. Which the Abai is right, that's the Mishnah is talking about. What the Mishnah means is, if the student says, I have a raya, they put him on the Sanhedrin that day. But if it turns out that his raya was meaningless, then what? They don't dismiss him that day. But rather, again, when Beis Din, close, when they end the session that evening, he goes back to his place. Matzalos chus. So remember again, the Mishnah says that while the Dayanim are obviously adjudicating the case, but remember, for a capital case, they don't paskin that day unless they're going to acquit. They let it sit, the judgment sit overnight. But that night, the judges are not permitted to drink wine. So once the yayin my time alone, why can't they drink wine? Because the pasuk that says by Mishnah, the Rosenim will say are the rulers a sheikhar. They should not have any intoxicating beverage. Ha'oskim berazol shalom, those who are engaged literally again in the secrets of the world, which Rabbi says is a reference to judgment, ayishtaku, should not go ahead and get drunk. Therefore, Rabbi say again that night while they're deliberating, they're not permitted to go ahead and drink any inebriating beverages. Matzalos chus. So Rabbi said, listen to this. This will say, actually, Dovi mentioned this before when we first learned the Mishnah. Remember, the Mishnah pointed out over here that let's say, again, they're deadlocked. Or again, let's say you have a case where they are finding the defendant guilty, but only by a majority of one, where you can't convict. So what did the Mishnah say? We keep on adding on judges. Now, obviously, you can't add on more than 71. So what happens if they're at 71 and they're still deadlocked? So they argue until what? Until one of the judges who ruled guilty reverses his position, and ultimately they find him innocent. So the Gemara says, Lo ra'umai. What happens, I will say, now the goal over there is because we want the Sanhedrin to render an innocent verdict. But let's say it can't happen. Meaning, let's say, again, none of the judges who ruled guilty are willing to reverse their positions. So what happens then? I'm going to back a poacher. So we'll say, obviously, the inability to convict ultimately leads to a verdict of what? Of innocent. To which the Gemara says, I'm poaching also. Obviously, if you can't convict, poaching also means we acquit him. I understand. So if that's the case, I will say that if you don't have the majority of two, you can't convict anyway. And by definition, once you can't convict, so the only thing you're doing is what? Is acquitting. So I have to go through the whole process of adding on judges and trying to convince each other. Once you don't have the majority of two to convict, then by definition, just acquit the defendant. Listen to this. The idea I will say is we don't want the judges, and for that matter, the defendant, and all of those who are observing the proceedings to go out confused. We'll say, what is that? Look at Rashi. It's almost Rashi right across. This is what we said before in the Mishnah. The idea is we want Beis Din to reach a decisive verdict. The inability to convict the defendant because you only have a majority of one leads to a default acquittal, but that default acquittal is not the same as a conclusive ruling for acquittal. So the idea is we want Beis Din to adjudicate the case until they reach a decisive verdict of acquittal. Obviously, if that's impossible, we're gonna acquit the defendant. Is gonna go free. But ideally we want Beis Din to reach an actual verdict of acquittal. So what's an alternate version of this same discussion? Why do we have to keep adding on judges in order to acquit? We'll say once you only have a simple majority of one to go ahead and find the defendant guilty, you can't find him guilty based on the majority of one. You need a majority of two. If you don't have the majority of two, then by definition he's acquitted. To which the Gemara says, Rabbi Yosef holds like you. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Kashem Shem Osif, and Al Beis Din Shel Shivim Ve'echad. Rabbi Yossi said the same way that you can't add judges onto a Beis Din of 71. Kach in Mosifin Al Beis Din Shel Esrim Mishlosha. So too you don't add on to a Beis Din of 20 either. So we'll say Rabbi Yossi is of the opinion that by definition, once a Beis Din can't find guilty because they only have a majority of one, by definition that results in automatic acquittal, and there is no need to keep adding on judges until ultimately, again, you reach a decisive verdict of acquittal. So we'll say, what you see over here as a fundamental machlokes. Clearly, again, what the Mishnah wants is for us to be able to reach a decisive verdict of acquittal. So we're going to keep adding on judges until we have a majority for acquittal. Rabbi Yossi says no. Rabbi Yossi says once you can't reach a majority of two to convict, then by definition that results in acquittal. Tan Rabbanan. Sorry. Tan Rabbanan. Omer b'dinei mamanis nizdakin hadin. V'in Omer b'dinei nefashos nizdakin hadin. So the Brisa says the following. When it comes to monetary law, so we say nizdakin hadin. When it comes to dinei nefashos, when it comes ultimately again to capital cases, we do not say nizdakin hadin. So the Gemara says, what does that mean? Mine is dakin hadin. What does that statement mean? Ilema kashdina. If you want to say ultimately again that nizdakin hadin means that this judgment is very difficult, and therefore what? We're not going to rule now, but rather, again, we're going to sleep on it and rule on the case tomorrow. And you're telling me that we say this in monetary law, but we don't say this in capital cases. That doesn't make sense. The both say if that's the case, as nizdakin adin means judgment, this is a very complex case, and therefore we shouldn't rule on it now. We should sleep on it until tomorrow. And I both say, when should you say such a statement like that? By capital cases, not by monetary cases. You're right. Switch it around. Say ultimately again that we say nizdakin hadin that you should sleep on the case by capital cases, but you need not say that by monetary cases. Ravashi Amar the Olam Lo Seifoch. Ravashi, you don't have to turn it around. Umay nizdakin hadin. What is nizdakin? I mean chacham dina, which means we have decided the case wisely. We have decided the case wisely. Look at Rashi just a moment. Chacham dina yafeh maratanu al barav ve'ein echad mimenu tzarich lahapech uledaktek mo. Ve'ein omrim came bedina in the fashas. Shav mishegamrua im yidaktika echad. Let's consider. We'll say what the Gemara is saying is over here the following: that apparently when Beis Din would finish adjudicating the case, as we're going to see, the Rosh Beis Din would say nizdakin hadin. Nizdakin hadin abosai means we have adjudicated this case properly. It's almost like an affirmative statement. We've done our job well. And the Brisa says, when does Beis Din say this? We say this only when, Rabosai? By monetary cases, but not by capital cases. Why not by capital cases, Rabosai? Because as we're going to see, when it comes to capital cases, even once the Beis Din has rendered its verdict, is the case sealed? And the answer we're going to see is no. The case is only sealed when the defendant is executed. But anytime up until the execution of the defendant, the case or the ruling itself could be overturned. So what the Brisa says is at the end of monetary cases, the Beis Din will stand up and say, Shkoyach, nizdakin hadin. We did our due diligence over here and we did a good job. So the Gemara says, Meisvei, Gadol Shabbatayana Omer nizdakin hadin. The Gadol, right, the head of the Beis Din would stand up and say, nizdakin hadin. So if you mean, if we understand the Brisa to mean, that's what? That Lamaisa, again, means Chacham Dina. This is another nice. Do I look that bad? No, thank you. Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you. Sorry.
Vodka or water?
I don't know. We'll find out in a few moments. Thank you, Ari. Thank you. So the Gemara says over here the following: if you understand that this dakin hadin means chacham dina, means that the Beis Din is the Av Beis Din is saying we did a good job. Hainu damar gadol. Then it makes sense ultimately again that the gadol of the Beis Din is saying this. Elei amrit kashtina. But Rabbi said, if you want to say that ultimately again this dakin hadin means this case is very complex. We cannot rule on it right now. We have to sleep on it. So lo sagid lo amar gadol kesufehu de kamach sef nachshay. It's saying to say that ultimately again it's a complex din and we don't know how to rule. It's like a shtickle embarrassing. So with the Av Beis Din make this statement, go to listen to this in why ena dama mispayish me'atzmo the mispayish me'achirim. It's better to embarrass yourself than to be embarrassed by others. In other words, if the Beis Din cannot reach a conclusive ruling by a capital case, it is better for the Beis Din itself to make that statement than for someone else to make that statement. So what's an alternate version of this? If you understand this dakin hadin to mean that the din is very difficult, we can't reach a verdict now, we're going to have to sleep on it. So then it makes sense that the Gadol Beis Din is going to say that, because better for them to quote unquote embarrass themselves than to be embarrassed by someone else. But I will say, if you understand that his dakin hadin means, it's like a statement, we did a good job, right? We adjudicated this case properly. Is it appropriate for a Beis Din to compliment itself? That the pasuk says you should be praised by the stranger and not praise yourself. Also, which is a good discern in life. In other words, don't go around complimenting yourself. If you deserve a compliment, Someone else will give you that compliment, but don't compliment yourself. So how could the Av Beis Din stand up and say, Shkoyach, we did a good job here? To which the Gemara says, Shiny Milsa de Beidina, Da Gadol Ramya. Beis Din is different. Because also when it comes to a Beis Din, the head of the Beis Din, as we're going to see, has an obligation to give chizuk to the rest of the Beis Din, as well as to the general populace, that the Beis Din is doing a good job. Kidisnan, Gamru es Hadavar, when they went ahead and they ruled on the case, Hayu Machnisin also Gadol Shabadiyan. Also, when they ruled on a case, they would bring in a defendant. The Av Beis Din would say, Ish Ploni Ata Zakai, Ish Ploni Ata Chayiv. So it was the Av Beis Din, who would deliver the verdict, and therefore it was the Av's Beis Din, in order to ensure that the general populace would continue to have trust in the Beis Din. He would make the statement, literally, Nizdakin Adim. We did a good job. We did our due diligence. We adjudicated this case properly. Hadron Allah, how you both came. Mazel tov. Just so you know, it's a little bit. Again, I was going to say we're not going to see the fifth parak of Masechah Sanhedrin for another 7.5 years. But that is not true, because obviously we're all doing Chazara also. So Meretz Hashem, we'll see it in our Chazara. It's an incredible thing, Halabai, we should be Zocheh Meretz Hashem to return to the fifth parak of Sanhedrin B'Karov. Let's begin. New parak. Then Beis and Beis. Nigmar Hadin. So remember again, these Mishnayos are taking us through these processes. So Nigmar Hadin, once the case has been adjudicated, Motziin Osol. So we'll say these are capital cases. So after this is talking about a case where they found the defendant guilty. They found him guilty. So what happens? They would go ahead and they would bring him out to stone him. To literally stone him. Now, the area where they stoned someone was outside of the Beis Din. We'll discuss why this is. In other words, they would stone someone at a distance from the Beis Din. We'll discuss how far. Shenemar, Hotziya Samakalo. As I was saying, bringing up the case of the Makalo, the man who blaspheming, who cursed the Kodesh Baruch Hu in the desert. Ultimately, again, they said, Hotziyu Oso. They take him out of the camp. So Echad Amad al Pesach Beis Din. So let's listen to this. So one guy stood by the entranceway of the Beis Din. V'hasudarin biyado. He would have literally again some scarves in his hand. V'sus rachok mimenu kedei shehu ra'eu. And there was someone else on horseback who was in eye shot, right, in visual distance. So Omer Echad Yesh Li Lalamed Alav Schos Hala Menef Besudarim Vasus Ratz Uma'amida. So we'll say, listen to this. The Gemara is going to describe exactly how this was set up. But what this means is the following. As we said before, the Beis Din has found this individual guilty. But even once the individual has been found guilty, we entertain additional testimony up until the actual execution of the individual. So there was a guy who was standing literally outside of the Beis Din, Pesach Beis Din. There was another guy on horseback. So that should someone come forward and say, I have new evidence to find the defendant innocent, the guy standing outside the Beis Din would what? He would go ahead and he would wave his scarf. The guy on horseback, we're going to see in the Gemara where the guy is riding. Is he riding out to the Beis HaSkila to tell them to stop? Is he riding out to the Beis Din? It sounds like the first guy's by the Beis Din to tell them we have new testimony. So we'll discuss where everybody's standing, where everybody's riding. Can you imagine this? But we have this whole system set up to account for the possibility that there's going to be some new late-breaking testimony that can potentially save the life of the individual. Va'afilu hu omer, yesh li lelamed al atzmi zchus machziro. So we'll say this is amazing. Even if the individual is convicted, even if the person can imagine the scene, he's about to be stoned, he's about to be killed, and he says, "Oh, I remembered. I have some new information that could help my case." So let's say if he says that, what do we do? Machzirino, so we bring him back to Beis Din. Afilu arba v'chamesh pamim, even 4 and 5 times. However, again, ubilvad sheyish mamish bidvarav. As long as what? As long as ultimately, again, we see some validity to his words. So obviously, again, I will say the idea being any guy who doesn't want to get killed could just simply keep saying what? Oh, I remember something. So obviously, there has to be some type of vetting process to see if what he's saying, if there's something to his words. So we'll see how that is in the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Beis Haskila chutz labeis din. Was the Beis Haskila both at the area where they stoned someone? What now? The Mishnah makes it sound like that Beis Haskila haya chutz labeis din. So I said, what does chutz labeis din sound like? They wouldn't stone the guy in Beis Din, but what would they do? They would set him right outside of Beis Din. So Zadid was just outside of Beis Din. V'sulo v'tanya Beis Haskila haya chutz l'shalosh machanos. But yet we learned that the Beis Haskila was outside of the three camps. They both say this is talking about in the desert. Outside of the three camps, which I both say puts the Beis Haskila a very good distance away from the Beis Din. To which the Gemara says, "In Kid Kamrat." You're right. It doesn't just mean that the Beis Haskila was just outside of Beis Din. What it means is the Beis Haskila, I will say, was a good distance from Beis Din. So the Gemara says, "V'haydik tani hacha." So why does the Mishnah use the lashon of chut, just simply chutz lebeis din? Nafkamina dinafik beidina v'yasef chutz l'shalosh machanos abdinon Beis Haskila chutz lebeis din. We'll say what it means is that if Beis Din had set itself up outside of the three camps, we would still make sure to distance the Beis Haskila from the Beis Din itself. Now, why is this? Why do we make sure to distance the Beis Haskila from the Beis Din? Beis Din rotzchim. I will say ultimately again because we don't want Beis Din to look like murderers. In other words, if skila were to happen right outside of the Beis Din, it looks like Beis Din is an execution factory. We don't want that. Therefore, in order to avoid this, we distance the Beis Haskila from the Beis Din. Inami ki echid tehavi le'atzala. But the other possibility is that the greater distance you place between the Beis Haskila and the Beis Din, that distance by definition means that what? There's going to have to be transportation time. That transportation time allows for what? For potentially new testimony to come about that would save the life of the individual. Okay? So we'll say, how do we know that indeed the Beis Haskila was outside of the three machanos, was outside of the three camps in the desert? Because we'll say the Brisa says, because the pasuk says, we'll say by the makalo, by the person who cursed HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Take him out, amichutz lamachana. And we darshan, what does chutz lamachana mean? Chutz legimel machanos. It means take him out of the three camps. Ata omer chutz legimel machanos, o ena elo chutz lamachana achos. You say it means take him out of the three camps. Maybe not the three camps, maybe it just means take him out of one of the camps. Ne'emar kan michutz lamachana. Moshe, it says over here by the makalo, take him out of the camp. Ne'emar beparim hanisrafim chutz lamachana. And Abba say it says by the parim hanisrafim, the bull offerings that are burned. Abba say there are two parim that we're talking about over here. One is the par of the Kohen Gadol, and one is the par ha'elam davar min hatzibor. Now, essentially, they're both brought for the same purpose. One, par ha'elam davar min hatzibor means the Sanhedrin paskin on something and made a mistake, but a serious mistake. They permitted something that is normally punishable by kares. Just give you an extreme example. The Sanhedrin paskin you could eat on Yom Kippur, for argument's sake. So we'll say that is an offense punishable by kares. If the Sanhedrin goes ahead and makes such an erroneous ruling, they have to bring what's called a par ha'elam davar min hatzibor. And we'll say that par is unique in that it's burned outside of the three camps. Similarly, if you have a Kohen Gadol who also issues an erroneous ruling, same thing. His par is burnt outside of the three camps. So the Gemara says we make a gzira shava, or we learn over here between execution and the paros. Usually the parim. So the Gemara says, what does it say? It says by the mekalel that he is to be executed michutz lamachana. And it says by the bulls, the that are supposed to be burned outside of the machana. So we'll say, just like we know that those bulls are burned outside of the three camps, so too over here we know the execution takes place outside of the three camps. How do we know that when the bulls are burned? They are burned outside of the three camps. The pasuk says, let's say the slaughtering of the parim take place inside the camp, inside the base of Mikdash, but they are burned outside. So so it means outside of the three camps. So how do you know it means 3 camps? Maybe it only means 1 camp. When the pasuk says that you should go ahead and take it outside of the camp to be burned by the para'ida, we'll say now this doesn't need to be stated. Why not? So Gemara says, "Shari kvar ne'amar l'saraf oso kasher saraf es aparishon." The pasuk already told me you should burn it as you burned the first par, which will say teaches me already that the same thing that governs this par governs the same thing that governed the original par governs this par as well. Litein lo machane shnia. Shabbos say this redundant pasuk teaches me an additional camp that I have to remove it out of. Ukisho omer al michutz lamachane badeshen. And when it says again, the pasuk says that you shall go ahead and take it out to the camp. Shein Talmud Lomar. This pasuk is also extraneous. Shahari kvar ne'amar al shefach hadeshen yisarif. Pasuk already says that you shall burn it by the ash pile. Litein lo machane shlishis. Both it teaches me ultimately 3 camps. So from here, from these redundancy in the psukim, I learned that the paros, both of the bull offerings, so we'll say the bull of the Sanhedrin and the bull of the Kohen Gadol, are both burned outside of the 3 camps. You understand what we're doing over here is making zir shava between the parim, the 2 bulls, and ultimately again the person who's executed, because by both of them it uses a lashon of michutz lamachane, outside the camp. So just like by the bulls it means outside of the 3 camps, so too over here by execution it means outside of the 3 camps. So let's just do one more line. Why don't we learn out between the makalo, that the execution? Why don't we learn execution between the makalo, the execution, the person who is executed for cursing God, and shchutei chutz means the prohibition to offer up or to shecht karbanos outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Now, both sides, the prohibition of shchutei chutz applies where? Even outside of 1 camp. Remember, the Beis Hamikdash is considered to be the Machane Shechina. See, even if you shech them outside of 1 camp, it's prohibited. Just like over here, if you shech a carbon outside of 1 machane, outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you're obligated or you're liable. Maybe I will say for execution as well. We can execute outside of 1 machane as well. To which the Gemara says, "Mistabra mi parim hanisrafim." It's better, I will say, to learn out the din of execution, right? The din of execution from the din of the parim. Why? Shekain hotzei, because I will say by both of these you have the lashon of hotzei, remove. El michutz lamachane, use lashon michutz lamachane. Machshir, both of them are preparatory acts. Mechaper, both of them atone, and both of them atone. So we'll say, therefore, it's more mistaber to learn out, ultimately, again, the din of execution from the din of the parim. Adrabah, mishchutei chutz chavei l'melev. I can make the counter argument, learning that from shchutei chutz. How so? Shekain adam chotei, because Rose said both of them ultimately, again, are situations that deal with people. Right? Rashi points out that there shekain adam michutz lamachane de mekala ba'adam tzir. Rose say both of them use lashon of adam. Furthermore, chotei. Both of them deal with transgressions. Binishama, ultimately, again, I will say, both of them bear a prohibition, ultimately, of Netilas Shama. If you offer up karbanos outside of the Beis Hamikdash, that is punishable by death. And ultimately, again, obviously, execution means the taking of life. And pigul, I will say, pigul ultimately means, pigul, something can be rendered pigul if done in the wrong location as well. So the Gemara answers, machshir mi machshir adif. We have a closer connection ultimately between what? Well, first, if you look at Rashi, Rashi just says, "Pigol michutz lamachane tishchutei chutz umekalal iyata motze pigol al yedei oso chutz lamachane." Aval parim roim lispagel aidi oso. So both say just like something can become pigol ultimately through a change of location, so to over here, this act of execution has to take place in a different location as well. So what the Gemara is asking over here is the following: we're trying to learn out. Remember, we're going to stop with this. We're trying to learn out the idea that the person is executed outside of the 3 camps. The Gemara just says, now the way we learn that out is how? By comparing it to the parim, to the 2 bull offerings, one of the Sanhedrin and one of the Kohen Gadol. Those are burned where? Outside of the 3 camps. All the Gemara wants to suggest is that Lamaisa, why don't you compare execution to shchutei chutz? And just as shchutei chutz, the prohibition of offering up a carbon outside of the Beis Hamikdash, that prohibition is true even outside of 1 camp. maybe execution should also take place only outside one camp. In other words, the Sanhedrin can't execute the person inside the Beis Hamikdash, but outside the Beis Hamikdash you can execute. To which the Gemara ultimately ends off by saying, Machshir mi machshir adif. It is better ultimately to learn out one preparatory act from another preparatory act. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says, Machshir adif lei lemelech chutz lemachane ha'amar b'shnei elu kachi chavaso u're'uyin lilmod zemizeh v'lo michutz lemachane t'shchutei chutz shu shelo kedas k'mitzvah. So I'll say ultimately again, the Gemara says it is better to learn out ultimately again the laws of execution from the laws of the parim, because I will say just like again, both of them have their preparatory acts done inside the machane. In the case of the parim, it's the shchita. In the case ultimately again of the executioner, it's the gimar din, and yet both of them have the rest of the process carried out outside of the machane, just like by the parim it's michutz l'shalosh machanos, so too by the executioner shalosh machanos as well. So we're going to stop over here for today. But again, where we end off is that even though the Mishnah used the lashon of michutz l'beis din, so can also chutz l'beis din. Even I thought chutz l'beis din just means in the backyard of the beis din. Kamash malon no. Kashan chutz l'beis din means what the Mosai chutz l'shalosh machanos, that the execution of the convicted defendant takes place at a good distance from the beis din. Why at a good distance from the beis din? Because as we learned before, in order that what? Either one of two reasons. Beis din should not look like murderers, or a second possibility is the greater distance there is between the place where the judgment is adjudicated and where the sentence is carried out gives just a little bit more time for new testimony and the possibility for the overturning of the verdict.